Life will always throw noise, negativity, and distractions your way. But the real power lies in how you handle them. The strongest people aren't the ones who fight every battle. They're the ones who know when to rise above it. Today, let's talk about how to act as if nothing bothers you, and why that's one of the sharpest skills you can ever learn. Most people don't realize how much power they give away every single day by reacting to triggers. Someone cuts you off in traffic, a coworker makes a snide comment, a family member presses the same button they always do, and instantly you're pulled into the same old cycle. You feel the rise of frustration, your heart starts racing, your words get sharper, and before you know it, the other person is controlling the moment, not you. That's what triggers do. They take your peace hostage and they trade it for a 5-second reaction that usually isn't worth it. Detaching from emotional triggers doesn't mean ignoring the situation or pretending you don't care. It means recognizing what's happening and choosing not to hand over the keys to your emotions. When someone tries to provoke you, what they're really testing is not your intelligence or even your opinion. It's your self-control. They want a reaction. They want proof that they can rattle you. But imagine what happens when they don't get that satisfaction. Imagine looking at the situation, feeling the spark inside you, and then letting it die out before it becomes a fire. That moment of pause, that space between what's done to you and what you do back is where your strength lies. It's easy to think detachment means coldness, like you're shutting down or cutting off your emotions. But in reality, it's the opposite. It's awareness. It's the ability to notice your feelings rising without being dragged around by them. You're not a puppet for someone else's bad day, and you don't need to mirror their energy. Think about it. If someone throws an insult your way, does it actually change who you are? No. All it does is test whether you'll give them the reaction they want. The truth is, people only push buttons when they know those buttons work. If you stop reacting, if you stay composed and unshaken, eventually those buttons lose their power. Detachment is like pulling the plug on their control. You're still human, you still feel the sting, but you don't have to feed it. That's the difference. That's the skill. Your body speaks before you ever open your mouth. Most people don't pay attention to that, but it's the first thing others notice. The way you walk into a room, the way you hold yourself, the way your eyes meet theirs, it all sends a message. If your shoulders are slumped, your arms crossed, your foot tapping, or your expression tight, people can tell you're unsettled. They can read irritation, defensiveness, or insecurity without you saying a word. And the reality is, once you project that energy, people know they've gotten to you. They can see you're bothered, even if you're trying to hide it. Mastering your body language doesn't mean pretending to be someone you're not. It means training yourself to stay calm, grounded, and collected on the outside, even when something on the inside wants to erupt. Think about your posture. Straight back, shoulders relaxed, steady breathing. That simple adjustment already communicates confidence and composure. Think about your face. A neutral or slight calm expression is far stronger than an exaggerated frown or rolling eyes. It tells the other person you're in control, you're not shaken, and you're not giving them free access to your emotions. Then there's your voice. Tone is part of body language too. When you raise your voice, speed it up, or let it crack, you signal that the other person has pulled you off balance. But when you keep it measured, steady, and clear, you send a completely different message. You say, without saying, that you're not owned by the moment. And sometimes the most powerful body language isn't even moving at all. It's stillness, not rushing, not fidgeting, not chasing to prove your point. Just letting your presence be enough. People often underestimate how much influence body language has, but think about times you've seen someone walk away from a heated situation with their head held high, calm, composed, without even needing the last word. That image stays with you. That's not weakness, it's strength that's visible. And it's a kind of strength anyone can build. It's not about being rigid or robotic. It's about practicing calm so often that it becomes your natural default. Because when your body language shows you're unshaken, people stop looking for cracks. They stop searching for the reaction. They realize they can't control you. There's a huge difference between reacting and responding, but most people never stop long enough to recognize it. Reacting is automatic. It's what happens when you get cut off in traffic and your horn is blaring before you even think. It's what happens when someone insults you and your words fly out sharper than you intended. Reactions come from impulse, and impulse almost always belongs to the other person. They push, you push back. They raise their voice, you raise yours. They set the tone, and without realizing it, you match it. That's not control. That's letting someone else steer your emotions. Responding, on the other hand, is deliberate. It's what happens when you give yourself that pause, that small space between what happened and what you decide to do about it. It's not about ignoring what's in front of you. It's about choosing your move instead of being dragged into theirs. A response can still be firm, it can still be confident, but it's grounded. It doesn't have to be loud, it doesn't have to be rushed, it doesn't have to prove anything. When you respond instead of react, you're not just protecting your peace, you're setting the tone of the entire exchange. The power of responding comes from silence. That second where you breathe instead of snapping back, where you think instead of spilling the first emotion that hits, is often where your greatest strength shows. Silence doesn't mean weakness. Silence means you're filtering. You're deciding if this is even worth your words. Because sometimes the best response isn't a clever comeback, it's no comeback at all. And other times, when a response is necessary, you deliver it calmly, without feeding the fire, without giving away your composure. When you react, the other person knows they've reached you. They see the effect, they see the crack, and they feed on it. But when you respond, you send a completely different signal. You show them you're not owned by their actions, you're not dancing to their rhythm, and you won't let them decide how you feel. That's the shift. That's the discipline. It's not about being emotionless, it's about being intentional, because the one who responds holds the real power in the conversation. Perspective changes everything. The way you see a problem determines how much weight it carries in your life. Most people get stuck in the moment, staring so closely at what bothers them that it feels bigger than it really is. Someone says something rude, and suddenly it's the headline of your whole day. A small mistake at work, and you convince yourself it's the end of your reputation. The mind has this habit of blowing up the present as if it will last forever. But when you shift perspective, you create distance between the event and its actual importance. You step back and ask, will this matter tomorrow? Will this matter a month from now? Will I even remember this a year down the road? Most of the time, the answer is no. That simple question is like a filter. It strips away the noise and leaves you with only what's worth holding on to. If something isn't going to shape your future, why let it shape your mood? Perspective doesn't erase problems, it just sizes them correctly. A rude comment isn't a life crisis. A delay in traffic isn't the end of the world. Even bigger setbacks, like rejection or failure, shrink when you see them as chapters instead of the whole story. They're moments, not definitions. Shifting perspective also means looking beyond yourself. When someone lashes out, it's easy to take it personally, but what if it has nothing to do with you? Maybe they're carrying stress you can't see. Maybe they're speaking from pain, not truth. That doesn't excuse their behavior, but it frees you from absorbing it. When you stop centering everything around how it affects you and start viewing it as just a part of the bigger picture, your grip on peace gets stronger. The more you practice this, the lighter life feels. Suddenly, things that used to drain you don't get the same reaction. You save your energy for what truly matters because not every problem deserves the same level of attention. Perspective becomes like a lens you choose to wear, one that filters out what's temporary and helps you see what's lasting. And the moment you start seeing things for what they really are, instead of what your emotions tell you in the heat of it, the power they hold over you begins to fade. Peace is something people talk about like it's a luxury, but it's not. It's a necessity. Without it, everything else feels heavier. You can have success, you can have money, you can have recognition, but if you don't have peace, none of it feels right. Protecting your peace means being intentional about what you let into your mind and your space. Not every battle is worth fighting. Not every invitation is worth accepting. Not every opinion deserves a reply. The more you realize that, the less drained you become by things that were never worth your energy in the first place. Protecting your peace often starts with boundaries, and boundaries don't need to be loud or dramatic. They can be quiet, steady lines you choose not to let others cross. Maybe it's not engaging in every argument. Maybe it's not checking your phone the moment a negative message comes through. Maybe it's choosing not to explain yourself to people who are already committed to misunderstanding you. Each time you hold a boundary, you're reminding yourself that your energy is valuable, and you don't owe it to anyone who comes looking to take it. There will always be situations designed to pull you in. Someone's bad mood, a pointless argument online, drama that doesn't even belong to you. The temptation is to jump and defend yourself, prove your point, or fix the mess. But that's how peace gets stolen. Protecting it means asking, is this really mine to carry? If the answer is no, you don't pick it up. That restraint is hard at first because the pull to engage is strong. But over time, you realize how freeing it feels not to participate in every storm that passes by. Protecting your peace also means protecting your inner dialogue. It's not just about what others bring into your life. It's about what you say to yourself. If your thoughts are always hostile, always critical, always restless, then even in a quiet room, you'll have no peace. Guarding your mind, redirecting your focus, choosing not to dwell on what you can't change, all of that matters just as much as what you shut out from the outside world. Because peace doesn't just happen. It's protected piece by piece, decision by decision, moment by moment, by the choices you make about where to place your energy. Silence is one of the most underrated forms of confidence. Most people think confidence has to be loud, noticeable, or backed by a long explanation. But real confidence doesn't need to announce itself. It doesn't need to argue for approval or prove its point over and over. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do in a moment is to say nothing at all. Silence makes people uncomfortable because it leaves space, and in that space, people have to sit with themselves. If someone is trying to provoke you, that silence tells them you're not playing their game. If someone is pushing for a reaction, your stillness tells them they don't have that kind of control over you. Confidence in silence is about trusting that your value doesn't depend on constant defense. When you know who you are, you don't need to explain it every time someone questions you. You don't need to justify your choices to people who wouldn't understand them anyway. Think about how often arguments drag on not because the point is unclear, but because neither side wants to be quiet. The louder it gets, the weaker it looks. The one who holds their calm, the one who refuses to scramble for the last word, is often the one who looks stronger. Silence also creates room for clarity. When you pause before responding, you give yourself time to think, to see the situation for what it is instead of what your emotions want it to be. That pause alone separates people who live on impulse from people who live with intention. And it's in that pause where respect builds. People notice when you don't rush to defend yourself, when you don't take every jab personally, when you stand still instead of scrambling. They may not admit it, but silence backed with composure is intimidating in the best way. Confidence in silence isn't about shutting down or avoiding. It's about presence. It's about carrying yourself in a way that doesn't need noise to be seen or heard. You can be firm without raising your voice, clear without repeating yourself, powerful without ever pressing harder than necessary. When you start to trust that silence carries its own weight, you realize you don't need to fill every moment with words to prove your strength. Resilience isn't something you wake up with one day fully built. It's a muscle, and like any muscle, it grows with training. Most people think resilience is about being naturally tough, but it's not about toughness, it's about consistency. It's the daily decision to keep showing up, to keep steady, even when life keeps throwing things at you. Training resilience means you don't wait for the big challenges to arrive before you start practicing. You build it in the small, everyday moments where you choose discipline over impulse, calm over chaos, patience over frustration. Every time you decide not to let a minor inconvenience ruin your whole day, you're training. Every time you face a setback and choose to learn instead of quit, you're training. Every time you breathe through stress instead of snapping under it, you're training. The beauty of resilience is that it compounds. The more you practice it, the easier it becomes to handle the next challenge. What once would have knocked you down starts to feel manageable. What once felt overwhelming starts to feel like just another step. That shift doesn't happen overnight, it's built moment by moment. And the more you train it, the less shaken you are by the noise around you. You stop reacting to every problem like it's the end, and instead you start moving through it with a steadiness that surprises even you. Resilience also comes from accepting that discomfort is part of growth. Too many people run from struggle, but it's in struggle that resilience is formed. When you lift weights, your muscles tear slightly so they can rebuild stronger. Life works the same way. The stress, the pressure, the challenges, they're not breaking you, they're shaping you, but only if you lean into them instead of resisting them. Each time you face something hard, you're adding another layer of strength, another piece of proof that you can handle more than you thought. Training daily resilience doesn't mean you never feel tired or frustrated. It means those feelings don't define you. You can acknowledge them without being owned by them. You build routines that anchor you, habits that steady you, and a mindset that sees obstacles not as roadblocks but as training grounds. That's how resilience grows, not in one big moment, but in the daily, quiet choices you make to keep going. At the end of the day, learning to act as if nothing bothers you isn't about pretending life doesn't affect you. It's about choosing where to place your energy, what to give your attention to, and what to let pass. It's about control over your body, your words, your perspective, and your peace. The people who look unshaken aren't the ones who feel nothing. They're the ones who've practiced resilience enough to decide what's worth carrying and what's not. When you stop letting every comment, every glance, every situation dictate how you feel, you free yourself. You move through the world lighter, calmer, stronger. That's not indifference, it's discipline. That's not weakness, it's power. Because the real strength is not in showing everyone how much you can fight back, but in showing yourself how little you need to.